I've kind of tuned out of the whole impeachment news cycle for a few weeks now, and just kind of like tuning back into some stuff. It's just is funny. I think we have this cultural idea in currency or attitude in currency that somehow, if we just don't like people, we get to make crimes out of what they did. There's this concept. It's one of our concepts that our nation's built on, that there's no crime, there's no punishment without law. So, um, the law, the impeachment isn't a criminal proceeding, but the same would be true for a tort or any other civil proceeding, that there's building block elements of each type of adjudication. So, I mean, it's just kind of crazy how people kind of get caught up in popular cultural hysteria, really. I mean, if you don't watch the news for a month or two, I mean, a few years ago, I stayed off of Facebook for 6 months. I moved up to the Mojave Desert, moved out to some raw land, and lived in a little trailer. And I stayed off of Facebook for like 6 months, and I just felt so much better. Um, just kind of tuning out of the news cycle. Just look back at it, it's like, wow. I mean, when I look at something automatically and know automatically you have to prove this stochastic rhetoric thing about Trump. I mean, I think the only thing I really thought was, well, if he's the president, he has to probably have had whatever information was out there about what groups were planning. And somebody said that today. There's an African American Democrat lady talking. I don't know what her name was, or is, but she said something that was kind of exactly what I was thinking. But it was just part of what she was saying, and it just happened to be when I tuned in. She was saying this thing that, okay, the president has this information, so I kind of have thought about it in a negligence or recklessness. Maybe negligence more than recklessness. Like maybe I felt the whole time, Trump's the only person who has played his cards, his verbal cards, his written cards, and Twitter and everything the way he has. Um, so many people never use language the way he does, but it doesn't mean that he's responsible for telling people to come and protest. And then after he said that, because there weren't people planning anything until he said come to the Capitol to protest. Like a month, I don't know, was it a month before the whole January 6th thing? And then, some reports probably came back, there's people planning to do this, that, or the other. Um, I don't know if that type of thing elevates to a duty to say, hey, you guys make sure to abide by the law, because there's always a general blanket duty to abide by the law. And if what you're calling for is a protest, I don't really see it as, trying to say he conspired with these people. The people who say, in their defense, that they were there by invitation. It's the people's house, things like that. Um, you know, I would have never run in there had I had the free time and resources to go. I thought about it. I thought about a couple things, like driving up to Sacramento that day and just like seeing what was going on, because I lived up there for a little while when I was in law school at the Lincoln Law School. I ran out of money and had to come back down here and keep working on my business and get a different job. Um, but it's like a sort of one of my second homes in California is that county, because I kind of tromped around there for a good 4 or 5 months. Um, I thought about going up there, but I just thought, fools rush in where angels fear to tread, type of thing. And when I heard President Trump say that he wanted people to go have a big protest in Washington, D.C., all I thought about was, there's going to be probably fights between like Proud Boys and Antifa, or Proud Boys and BLM, or Proud Boys and BLM and Antifa, or like some type of grouping like that. I thought there was just going to be some. I thought there was going to be up to 20 people killed outside. Like basically, I thought people were going to die, and so a good number less people died than I thought the number was going to be. I thought it was going to be 20. I thought it was going to be outside skirmishes. I had no thought in my mind about them running into the Capitol like that. So I don't know. It's a crazy little thing. I definitely am a guy with a laptop, video camera, and a YouTube channel, and I have no intel whatsoever. So I had no thought of these guys running in there. I got pretty mad during the election cycle in 2016 when then candidate Trump said he was going to make a Muslim ban because, and please forgive me and don't be offended for why I was mad. I got mad because I thought he was going to lose the election for the Republican Party because he was saying something in a way that, for whatever reason, there's a whole voting block of people who wouldn't vote before but should have been voting Republican for all these years, who needed to be riled up by language like a Muslim ban to be energized enough to actually go and vote. Whereas every candidate, Cruz, Clinton, everybody had a basic plan to have a travel ban of people coming in from the 7 dangerous designated countries where President Obama said these are hotbed countries for terrorist activity and people need to be vetted before they come into this country. So, I was pissed. I thought he was going to lose it for the GOP. I don't know where the GOP stands right now. If it's falling apart, if he's going to make a comeback, people are all going to not like what Biden does in these first 2 years, and then maybe there'll be a congressional comeback at the midterm. I don't know. I don't really know. I think the Constitution means what it meant when it was written, and there were writings surrounding things like the 14th Amendment, the House version of it, the person who wrote it. We have letters of him writing. Someone asked him a question: does this mean subject to the jurisdiction thereof? Does that mean that someone can come into this country without permission and have kids, and the kids be citizens? And his answer was no, definitely not. That's not what the meaning of what I wrote is. And I think original intent of the writer is very important. Original application, it was after the Dred Scott case, and it was also about the children of diplomats and where people were born, and where their parents were citizens. So the diplomats here's children born were they're subject to the jurisdiction of their home countries. So Just Solai is a fairy tale that people like to tell. Grade school teachers like to tell because they're liberals and Democrats, and that's about the level of people's understanding. Anyways, is that we're going to tell you a little golden book story, and that's what you're going to shame kids up on. You're not growing them up. You shame kids up into little puppets, and you try to turn it into a monoculture of Democrat. I had a systematic theology professor in college who he actually got me to vote Democrat for a good 4 years, halfway through college and a couple years after, because this thing he said really made sense to me. He said, and we didn't talk about the Constitution at all. I studied religion, and we talked about the idea that there isn't so much of a difference between Republican and Democrat, and this is something to say because it's true in one way, but he said that there's really a difference between rich and poor, and on the spectrum and the continuum of how different governments can be on the face of planet Earth, that Republican and Democrat were very close, and a different type of government that might be better for all humans considered would be drastically different. And so, if you ask me what should be done, I don't know. I think constitutional amendments, if you want something different than what the Constitution plainly means in English, is what should be done, rather than a system that fosters and bakes in people to come across the border illegally for, uh, inflated House representation, and now just the amnesty thing, a bunch of votes from people who came across the border illegally. I know everybody came here from somewhere else, everybody's ancestors. It's just it was a disingenuous path to this kind of. I don't know if there's a majority Democrat now. I don't know how to think about it because not everybody has amnesty. Not everybody's going to vote. People are generally apathetic and want things that they can get and then don't do anything if they don't have to. Um, so that's that. I'm generally not very vitriolic about politics. I think the Constitution means what it meant. Maybe we could do something different. I think God ordained government on the face of planet Earth for order and for punishment of wrongdoing. And so I don't know. I think the Spirit of God only contends with individuals and with groupings of people for so long, and then there's a catastrophic failure because if you're further away from the patterns of God's kingdom and what God would have you do as whatever part of society or your family or in whatever stage of your life you're in, you're going to be further away from the healthiest way you be. So we'll see how long the United States lasts. I only have 60 more years, probably, maybe 70. That'd be a big surprise if I lived to be 111. So, um, other countries though, like China, I don't know. The whole Uyghur concentration camp. There's no, there's no way that's right. There's all kinds of different governments that do drastic things to oppress people and to commit crimes against humanity. And for whatever reason, in our media, things get log rolled together. Um, People kind of have cascades of like people automatically when something happens think things that could be the potentiality, but then none of us wants to say something too far out of a standard set of standard deviations from the status quo. But someone will say something one standard deviation out, and then a bunch of people go, "Oh yeah, I was kind of thinking that, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to seem like the weirdo or whatever." Like it starts as soon as humans have a group of people in the playground, but it happens in the media too. And then there's another standard deviation out, and a bunch of people go, "Oh," and then a bunch of people voice support of that opinion. And then there can be a whole slew of people who are all of a sudden saying one thing, and then it gains momentum, and then it becomes like, "Oh, if you say anything different, you're the crazy person now," but they're actually one standard deviation away from what was status quo, and this whole group of people are now like 5, 6 standard deviations away. It's basically how the Overton window shifts. Um, Conspiracy cascades is what I read about from something that Cass Sunstein wrote, which is this paper called Conspiracy Theories. I read it when I was in this master's in criminal justice. I didn't finish the master's. I finished a couple classes. Actually, I was about to finish the second class and got myself dropped because I couldn't find my identity documentation. Couldn't document to the federal government who I was sufficiently well enough for them to allow me to stay in the class, but definitely they still bill me for the money I borrowed and I still owe them. It's weird. It's like I couldn't prove who I was, but you can prove who I am as a collector now. So I was pretty mad about that, but um, that was that. Cass Sunstein was former President Obama's anti-disinformation czar, and one of the things he wrote about is how to deal with conspiracy entrepreneurs. One of the things he said was, the government can deal with it directly and try to tax people or punish people or disallow people, or the government can hire other organizations. Well, there's a hiring process through social affirmation and the business world, big tech censoring people's ideas. So um, definitely, Democrat Party, liberal media, and big tech are in bed together. It's obvious and plain to see, but you could read Cass Sunstein's paper Conspiracy Theories and see him theorizing about it 10 years ago. I mean, there's so many things that are theorized, but he is pretty right on the money about what is now happening. I don't think, I don't know. It's weird. To me, it's like Democrats don't think sometimes about how what they say systematically, what they want to do, is also the condemnatory information about what they're doing. You're plainly saying what you're doing, and what you're doing is something to take away people's freedom of expression. So I don't know. I voted Democrat for a while, but then I went nonpartisan, then joined the Marines, and came back to being a Republican. Because I think the Constitution says what it says and it means what it means. Maybe we could have a different form of government, but we don't. We have the Constitution we have. I do care about poor people. I think the best thing for people to do, though, is to not blame government. Like, okay, Black Lives Matter, the poster children, the people who are committing crimes, and the cops have to show up, and then something happens. I think it's a bad example for kids to look at and say, "Oh, these people doing this thing." If a kid thinks critically, like, "Wait, that guy was doing what?" and the cops showed up because somebody a block away called, and then the guy did what, and then he's the hero, and the cops are bad. Like, I think children can plainly see the inconsistencies in the basic equation of the narrative. But I mean, the other thing is, who in the world teaches their kids to do the things that these different people were doing? I guess people do teach their kids to say "fuck the police" and things like that. But you still, if you had a sense of duty to your children, which you do, and what I'm saying to you is that you don't tell them to go do things to get arrested by the cops and then to fight the cops. Stay away from these situations. All people in all cultures teach their children how not to cause themselves problems. So I don't know. The crime culture in media, in hip hop, in urban settings is it's not gonna there's not gonna be an escape velocity out of that stuff with that type of viewpoint set of viewpoints. Um, People always have to at some point be sober minded and make a change from activities that get them in trouble. So that's that. No le pone, no le crimen sine lege. No crime, no punishment without law. And we're a constitutional republic. We defend people's rights against the tyranny of the majority. That's what the United States has always been. So I urge you in earnest, read the Constitution. It takes you less than an hour if you read it quickly. Just read it and don't stop. There's YouTube videos you can find one where someone's reading it and the text is scrolling. Just read it like that. Put some headphones on and listen to it. You'll find it pretty interesting. It's a lot shorter than any of the state constitutions. Um, just think critically. Look at what the actual building blocks of different crimes are, the prima facie elements of torts and crimes, and what's in the Constitution about impeachment. And don't just let a news source tell you what is right and wrong and what is legal and illegal. Read the primary source yourself.